Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I hope that you're all doing well, and we're excited to have you here. I'm also really excited for today's topic. It's all about how to manage and lead your staff with confidence, and it's such a relevant topic, and I can't wait to dive into it and learn what our speaker has to say. Just a couple of things to note before we get started. We are recording this webinar, so you can take notes if you would like to. But otherwise, keep on the lookout for the recording that we'll send to you. There is also a chat box down at the bottom, so if you have any comments that come up, feel free to put them in there. We also have a Q&A box. So this is where you can put in any questions that you have that come up throughout the webinar, and we will make sure to get to those at the end. So today I'm excited to introduce you to our host, Laura Muckholm. She is the owner of Studio Solutions and a certified mind-body consultant. And so with that, Laura, I will hand it off to you.
All right, awesome. Hi guys, morning to everyone, I guess afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. So excited to be talking about this topic with you guys today. To give you a quick little background, I started Studio Solutions a little over 4 years ago after running a large yoga studio in San Diego. And part of the reason I'm super passionate about this topic is that at this point, I've worked with over 100 mind-body clients around the world, and I see every day how much most of them struggle with not only managing the staff, but also seeing themselves as leaders of the business and people who deserve to be recognized and respected as a leader. And so I love to chat through this, not only give you some tactical details, but also really give you guys an opportunity to I guess have a renewed sense of confidence in yourself as a leader so that you can really guide your team towards your ultimate mission, which is why you started your studio in the first place. So I will get started. We'll go through all of this today. I know Kathleen was going to be popping up a poll for you guys. It would really help if you would let me know what industry you're in. Hopefully it just popped up on your screen. It helps me shift kind of the wording on this presentation so that it's really relevant to everybody. So would love to see your answers there as soon as you can. All right, let's dive in. Okay, so first off, when I talk about leadership, staff management, I love to begin with a foundation of why you started your business in the first place. I think this is something that most of us get really excited about early on. We've got a spark. I mean, there's a reason most of us took a risk and signed a lease and, jumped out of our very cushy, probably full benefits, easy corporate lives for some of us, and into something pretty risky and scary. And usually that's because there is something that is burning inside of you that said, I have to do this. It's something that I'm not only drawn to do, but is my mission on this planet. So when you think about your studio mission, maybe it's something that just deep inside you, but is it something that you've really communicated to your staff? Is it something that you make apparent in every interaction with your clients? Is it something that you onboard with? So I really love to have you, whether it's jot that down or make a mental note to have this somewhere a little more apparent in the business. Having a really clear and concise mission that everybody can buy into from the beginning is something that's going to help everybody jump on board with kind of the team goals and really feel like they're a part of something rather than ships passing in the night when they come into your business. The next step of that is really understanding what values support that mission. So if you haven't defined core values for your business, I really recommend doing that. It can be things like persistence or honesty and integrity, whatever it is that you feel like really supports and funnels directly to that mission, and choosing 3 or 4 of them, potentially 5, that really define the character of not only who you are, but who each of the individuals that work for you are, is going to be a really nice barometer for how you can hold standards for your team. And maybe as you think about that now, it's a little overwhelming to say like, oh yeah, I know exactly what our values are. take some time. This is the type of thing where you can really spend a month, 2 months, maybe even a year defining these things for your company. And as you start to define them, really think about who on your team lives those values on a day-to-day basis. Does your community feel those values every time they walk in the studio or the salon? And start to notice if there are people on your team that are really not pulling their weight when it comes to those values, because those are the things that really make an impact on buying decisions. I like to talk with clients about, how they can really move the needle on how many clients make the purchase that they want them to make. And sometimes I hear, I swear my staff did everything right. We followed the sales process. We said the right verbiage. Everything went according to clockwork. But people don't make buying decisions always based on logic and a perfect process. They oftentimes make buying decisions based on a feeling. And sometimes that feeling may be just that the individual communicating all of those perfectly placed, organized processes was not in alignment with the values of the studio, and there was some sort of a feeling missing. So I would really encourage all of you, before we really dive into kind of the tactics of staff management, to think about this big picture side of things, and do the individuals that work for you, from the instructors to the practitioners to the stylists to your desk staff, and even your cleaners, do they live by the values that you hold for yourself and for the mission of your studio or of your business? All right. So defining you as a leader. Again, in working with so many businesses all over the country, all over the world, again, oftentimes these things come up where it's like, I swear we've got it all dialed in. We've done the budget. We've looked at our KPIs. We constantly look at reports. I've hired the right people with the right resumes. But when it really boils down to it, the individuals, whether it be the managers or the owners that I'm working with, just simply don't believe in themselves as a leader, or don't believe they deserve the respect that a leader of a business should have. So I like to really give you a chance to define yourself as a leader and really start to think about what it is you bring to the table. Obviously, for most of you, this was your vision, your mission, your dream to open this business. There's a sense of passion behind what you're doing that is irreplaceable. Nobody else can have that. That in and of itself gives you a position of leadership in the company. But beyond that, what traits do you love about yourself? Are there things that, people are just attracted to all the time? Are there things that are really magnetic about you that you're constantly being told? Think about those things, jot them down, start to define almost a leadership character of yourself. And in that, you can think about the leaders that you've worked for in the past and why you've looked up to them. Was it that simply they treated you with such respect, or that they empathized with you? I put that as one of the bottom bullet points. Empathy, I personally believe, is what makes leaders unbelievable. That's what makes people attracted to you as a leader, when they think and they know from their deepest core that you truly care about them and you understand where they're coming from. Also think here about your kind of tactical and logistical superpowers. What can you do so well that nobody else can compare to in your business? And I'll talk about that in just a moment, about how you can do as much of that as possible so you stand out as someone everybody is looking up to on a regular basis. But I really encourage you to start thinking of yourselves in this way, so that you don't live day to day with either the imposter syndrome paralysis that a lot of us do, or simply feel scared to hold your staff accountable to the tasks that you've asked them to do. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with managers below me or with clients that they've said, yeah, they didn't clean the floors the way they asked them to, but it's just not worth it to have that conversation, or it's uncomfortable. Believing in yourself as a leader is believing that those conversations are absolutely necessary, because you hold such a high standard in your business and you demand that respect from everybody in there. And it's not just for you, it's for the ultimate mission of the company and for those values that we talked about at the beginning. So one of the places that you can really dive in and talk to other business owners about this, because I know it can be a challenge to do this all on your own and think about these leadership qualities and define everything for yourself. If any of you on the call haven't heard about Mind Body One, MindBody One is an online community that I developed with the co-founder of MindBody to be a place for all of the business owners and managers that use MindBody software to come together, chat about the daily challenges, chat about things like leadership. You can always hop in there. It's really easy. We've got a great app. Conversations happening all the time about just this type of thing. And we also have monthly virtual meetups where we get together and there's typically a topic that we talk about, but then afterwards there's just a general conversation amongst business owners. So I recommend if you're struggling to find a peer community, you can go here or hire a leadership coach or a business coach, somebody that can really help pull those things out of you that are going to step you into the role as leader in your business. So as you're working as a leader in your business, I really recommend looking at the scope of your work. So I define 3 zones. And part of the reason I have this picture here is because I've defined speaking to groups as one of my genius zones. I know after I get like the initial jitters out that it's a place I shine and I naturally feel comfortable. So where do you shine? What is your genius zone? When you think about your day and you walk into your business or your studio, what are you excited to do? And then what do you dread doing? What do you procrastinate? So when you start to define these things and really break your day down, how much of your day are you actually spending in your genius zone? It's really hard to stand out as a leader and a manager to your staff members if you're spending most of your day and you're not in this lifetime zone. I like to call it that because there are honestly things that our brains just simply don't do well as individuals. And I found when I first started managing my studio, I was spending a huge part of my day in my not in this lifetime zone simply because I didn't know how to lead the team and make sure I was delegating appropriately. I felt like I had to lead by example, always doing kind of, the crap work that I wasn't good at. And really that was giving them a false perception of what an incredible leader and boss I could be, because everybody was seeing me in this kind of mundane tasks, doing work I wasn't thrilled about. And that took me extra time to do. Where if I just found somebody whose genius zone was in that work, they would be thriving. I could shine in my genius zone and everybody would look up to me in a very different way. So if you're not spending 50 to 70% of your day in your genius zone, I would really reevaluate how you can delegate tasks. That may mean hiring an extra individual. You wouldn't believe how many people you can find that are between $10 and $15 an hour that you can bring on part-time, maybe even that don't have to be in the studio. If you're looking at a not in this lifetime zone that's operational behind the scenes or budgets, forecasting, detailed analysis of reports in MindBody, or in any other software. If you need somebody to help you take that off your plate, do it. You will be more productive, you will stand out as a leader, and your team will believe that you are so committed to your mission that you dedicate yourself to what you're best at. So as you're designing this kind of system and you have a team that's working for you, I really encourage you to put education at the center of everything you do. So once you have a staff that is, excited about your vision, excited about the mission and the services that you're offering, give them chances to educate themselves, to grow, and offer them empowering situations. So one of the things I hear often in staff management woes world is that my team just isn't motivated to get anything done during the day. If I ask them to take on a task, it's like I get an eye roll, or they say they'll do it and then they procrastinate it for half the day. Or the tasks that they're doing is really, really not necessarily something that they want to be doing or what they believe that they were hired for. So I say, give them educational opportunities. For every, few weeks of just typical staff objectives every day, give some sort of a training. Do some sort of maybe it's a book club that everybody's working on together. So there's something empowering, and it creates a really creative and winning culture where everybody feels bonded together by education. But with that, you have to give them opportunities to take on new challenges and new tasks. Empower them to solve problems themselves. When they don't feel like they're being micromanaged and they feel really safe making kind of new decisions and trying new things, that's when innovation happens. Believe me, they are going to fail. They're going to fail again and again. But you should be failing too. Show them what it means to fail, get up, try again, and that perfection is not what you're looking for. You're looking for innovation. When you really embed a culture like that in your business, people are excited to come to work every day. They know it's not going to be the same old boring tasks. They believe in the mission because that's what you've talked about from the get-go. And then they know that they're going to have an opportunity to try new things on a regular basis. So look at the tasks that they have. Look at what the next tier of their job might look like. And maybe you're not in a position financially to promote everybody at some point. You don't have to necessarily give them raises and new titles all the time. But as long as you give them opportunities to educate themselves and to grow their skill sets, that's when they're motivated to work for you. So when I was at the BOLD conference, Mindbody's amazing conference a few years ago, there was a speaker, Luke, who talked about the bus. And this has stuck with me forever. This is my team right now. I've got a couple more people that work with me, but this is my core, these two people. So the bus, when you're getting, I think from the beginning, I've always thought, get the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus. But I didn't always focus on getting the right people in the right seats. This is huge. You may have teachers or therapists that are taking on a class or a slot in your schedule because it worked logistically, right? Like they had that open, you needed a teacher, there are students asking for that time slot, and so you plug them in. But ultimately, that is not the right seat for them. Maybe it's a demographic that just doesn't resonate with that instructor. Or perhaps it's a desk staff person that you're asking to make phone calls, sales phone calls, and they're paralyzed by the thought of asking for money. And you keep pushing them to do that, but it's really backfiring on you. So think about who is in the seat and is that the right seat for them? You may be giving, basically doing them a disservice by putting them in that seat where they could be shining somewhere else for you. The odds of you keeping that person long-term are not very high. So really think about your team. And as you're looking at them from a values perspective, from their genius zones, their competence zones, they're not in this lifetime zones, really look at where they are on the bus and is that the right seat for them? So you may be thinking at this point like, wow, I really wish I had the right team. And I probably don't, but I don't have the time, the energy, or really the confidence to go hire a whole new group right now or a few new people. I understand it is not an easy thing to be hiring and training all the time. But what I encourage you to be doing, especially as you really define these values for yourself, is to always be hiring. You don't have to go through the whole Craigslist, Indeed, 10 interviews every single time you hire someone. If you're constantly hiring, you're going to meet people at the coffee shop, at somebody who came in to take a class, somebody's brother or sister, and just say, wow, that person is incredible. They totally clicked. I feel that they're the right person for my business, and recruit them. Always be recruiting. This is something that if you put into practice, you will very rarely have to go through traditional interview routes. And if you think about it, your time should be spent connecting with individuals that share the same values, that are excited about the same things you're excited about in life. And that's probably surrounding your mission. So make it a habit. Maybe put on your schedule every week a coffee date with somebody who is either a new acquaintance or somebody in the studio that you've really connected with. And just stick to that once a week, meeting with somebody. And if that somebody ends up being right for your business, score, because probably they're going to be more excited about working for you than you are even about meeting someone at that point. But if you are going through the traditional route of hiring someone, I actually worked in headhunting and recruiting for close to a decade. And this happens to be, again, one of my genius zones. I have some amazing processes that end up making your life a lot easier here. So first off, weed out the unaccountable candidates immediately. As you know, you can post a job description in many ways on different sites. At the bottom of your job description, put 3 questions there. And they can be as simple as, what are 3 words your friends use to describe you? What got you started with yoga or with massage in the first place? The other thing that you could ask is, what's your ideal schedule with us every week? Or, what would your perfect schedule at the studio look like? Most people don't even get halfway through reading job descriptions before they apply. So you'll see that 80 to 90% of the resumes that come in will not have answered those questions. And you can request them in a specific way, say, reply in an email or include them in your cover letter. Most people simply won't do it. Don't even look at those resumes. It's a waste of your time. You don't want someone that won't even take the time to read a full job description and who isn't detail-oriented enough to follow directions. You want people who are accountable as your employees. So what I would recommend is the people that do respond to that, then you dive in. But basically, it's going to be a tiny number of people. And I often find, as I've done this, those people end up doing some of the most creative, incredible things. I've had people that filled out those 3 questions and said, by the way, I'm going to stop by and take a class at the studio on Friday. I just can't wait to try out everything that you're talking about in this job description. Or somebody shows up and says, hey, I answered the questions in my cover letter, but I just wanted to see if I could talk to you about it in person. Those are the people you want. The people that are so excited about what you're doing and care a lot about the job. They're also detail-oriented and they follow directions. Next off, once you've decided on a group of people to interview, hopefully it's not a massive group, whittle it down to as few as 5 people, 4 or 5 people. Doing group interviews, especially for teacher positions or for front desk staff positions, saves you a boatload of time. The irresistible people always stand out, and you'll really start to see how they interact with other people around them. If you're interested in coaching on this, I coach studios and businesses on how to do group interviews and hiring processes all the time. Is the sound working okay for you guys now? Can I get a yes or something? I just want to make sure I'm all good. Okay, cool. So group interviews can be a game changer from a time perspective. Obviously, you can do a regular interview afterwards, but in group interviews, if you're interviewing for a sales position, the question I always ask at the end is, who should get this job? There's one position. All of you guys are interviewing for it. Who should get it and why? You better believe that the people you want selling for you are going to say loud and clear, me, and here's why. And they're going to be able to sell you on themselves. If there's somebody that says, I wish I could say me, but I've heard this, this, and this, and Sarah really had amazing points there, she would be incredible for this job. While I really love this company and this business, I wouldn't want to do it the disservice of me over her. You may find that that's a perfect operational person or behind the scenes person for your business. Don't write them off totally, but you want the salesperson, the person at the desk, to be somebody that loud and clear is not shy about selling themselves. Quick, spend time on outside the box and outside the job questions while you're interviewing people. I like to ask things like, what annoys you the most in a work environment? Or what type of people do you work best with? You could ask things that are silly, like what would be your at-bat song if you were a professional baseball player? Make it lighthearted, make it fun. Those things start to disarm people so that they actually open up to who they are, rather than playing a role for you. And most people get really good at practicing the answers to standard job interview questions, and you don't want a scripted response. Throw a curveball at them. Give them something different. Do references. This is something that most people overlook or just simply don't believe in. I believe strongly in references. So one of the things that people say when I suggest this is that, well, references always say great things. They're never gonna, everybody gives a reference that loves them. Totally true. I expect that every time I talk to a reference, but you can genuinely find out who this individual is as an employee when you're talking to that reference. So you can ask questions like, what did you do to get the most out of this employee? What motivated them on a day-to-day basis? Is this person, if you had a project versus like a lone focused task, which bucket would you put them into? Did they work awesome on a team in a project environment, or were they a heads down, detail-oriented rock star? You could ask what type of things in the job description they're going to rock at and what types of things they might need more training on. So I'll often break that down into 5 bullet points from the job description and just say, okay, which 3 of these do I need to spend less time training on? And give me 2 that I should double down on as far as training time is concerned. So that way you know exactly what to spend your time on. And honestly, they're probably giving you that candidate's weaknesses, which they wouldn't do if you just straight up asked. Training is key when you're hiring people. I'm not going to dive too deep into the details of this. This is my basically flow for training employees. Create systems around training and make them the same every time. The nice thing is some of these things have now been taken care of by Mindbody, like the MindBody training. If you haven't already checked out the MindBody front desk staff certification and the manager certification, those things are now automated for you. It takes about 4 or 5 hours for them to test through each module, and it's awesome. And then that person for the rest of their days has, I'm a MindBody front desk certified employee on their resume. So they're going to be stoked about it. It's an actual certification that they get. But what I want to highlight on this slide is that you always start, no matter what, with the studio mission and the values. When you make this a big part of training and you give everybody the impression that this is, everything that you believe in as a company, and the team is on board with it, the expectation is set from day one that if they're not living by those values and they're not constantly striving towards that mission, they probably don't belong on the team. They're going to believe from like the core of their being that they have to be working towards that mission because everybody else is around them. So when you set that expectation from day one and you kind of make that your guiding light or your North Star, whatever you want to call it, that sets the expectation for everyone. So that way you don't always have to micromanage the individuals. You'll find that the teams end up managing each other towards that. When they know that they're being held accountable to always be supporting customers or clients towards that mission, they're going to hold each other accountable towards that. I remember having staff members that kind of would get frustrated with each other if they didn't do everything that we were asking, or if they didn't do the tasks that actually were in the best interest of the client. And they would call each other out on it. I didn't have to manage them as much. It was great. But it's because they embedded the culture of, really true connection to our mission, and that we were serving every single customer so that they can ultimately reach their goals. When that's embedded in the foundation of the business and that's the root of the training, your staff members are going to be living it on a much more regular basis. So team meetings. This is something that I find with part-time employees is overlooked or just not done because it's kind of a headache. I'm sure some of you guys out there understand it's very challenging to manage a lot of part-time employees. Many of them have school, other jobs, families. Your studio isn't always their first priority. But if you instill a culture, just a straight up culture of we are a team and we're working together, and have team meetings on either a monthly or a quarterly basis, I really recommend monthly, you are going to find that the whole team starts supporting each other on a much more regular basis. It's not easy to get everyone to the studio or to the business flat out. I know because of everybody's different schedules, it's really challenging. So do Zoom meetings or video meetings. Google Hangouts is free. It's super easy to use. Most people have Gmail accounts anyway. Just have everybody hop on for a 30-minute to an hour meeting once a month. And that way you really get to start embedding that everybody is on board and working towards the same goal. Some things that I like to really include in the team meetings so that you keep them consistent and actually fun are clearing the air. I call it state of the self state. Now, if you have 40 or 50 employees, it's a little more challenging to do this because it'll take up a whole hour. So maybe find a way to do that in email prior to the meeting, or tell them to do it on their own before they walk into the meeting. I like to give a minute at max 2 minutes to each individual to just get their day off their shoulders. Maybe it's like, my kids were driving me nuts today. I just feel like I need to scream. Or maybe it's as simple as just getting to the studio today to teach my class was a nightmare. It was snowing, road rage, awful. Shake it off, get it out, get it off their chest. And then everybody is focused into the meeting. Playing psychologist and solving each other's problems is not what we're looking for here. The best everybody can do is just say, we love you, we got you, we're here now, awesome. Or give a hug if you're in person, fantastic. Just don't spend that time solving each other's problems. Next for you is to really design the ideal meeting outline. This is something I work with my clients on, is building the meeting outline and really making it something that is not only effective from an operational and business standpoint, but also exciting and fun for the team. So certainly pay your staff for attending the meetings and make sure that you make it mandatory so it's something that they don't blow off all the time. I had a rule at my studio that meetings were just like showing up for work. So if you didn't show up for a meeting twice without a call, or if there was a no-show, that was grounds for being fired. So this is something that it may take time to embed in your studio or your business if it's something you haven't done in the past, but let them know the why behind it. Why we're coming together as a team is because we all believe in what we're doing so much that we need to work on it together. We need to make sure that we're celebrating wins, that we're hitting our goals, that we're talking about accountability and holding each other accountable towards our, end of the deal. I also think it's a great time to be transparent about the business. I find the more transparent I was with my staff members, the more enthusiastic they were about working towards goals. So that meant sharing some numbers, and that can be scary. But, if you set a goal for yourself or for your team that you wanted to add 15 members or have, 20 new members convert to a certain pricing option that month, and you fall way short, talk about it. These are those educational opportunities that I mentioned earlier. So you can give them a chance and empower them in these meetings to help problem solve. This is where the ideas happen. This is kind of the think tank opportunity for the studio and for the employees. This is where they really get to shine and get creative with each other. So make it a safe space. There's no wrong answer here. And really give them the opportunity to start solving problems and really taking those goals seriously. You may even say, profitability was down 22% last month. Who's got ideas? What can we do to bring new people through the door? Here's what I'm doing, X, Y, and Z. Lay out your marketing plan so they know that you are just as invested in it as they are. Okay, so we're getting close here towards the end. Something that I love and I highly encourage all of you to do, and that I found was one of my best retention tools at my business, was working with love languages. Gary Chapman is an incredible author. He's done a ton of work with not only relationships, but also in workplaces. So he has 5 language of appreciation in the workplace and how to implement them. If you've never done this with your staff, it's an awesome, fun team get together. Maybe have an afternoon offsite or a little mini retreat. Do it where everybody has to take the test beforehand and then you chat about the results. And then you, as their manager, as the owner, get to track all of this and know how to make each individual in your business feel appreciated. This was huge for me. I literally kept a spreadsheet of each individual, and I had a W, Q, A, G, or T on there. And that was what their love language was. At the time, he hadn't written this book yet. So I was doing it based off of love languages. But it really helped me. So I knew when somebody did something right, or I really wanted to remind them of how great they were or thank them for something in the business, I knew how to do it in a way that meant something to them. And it wasn't just me telling them all the time how great they were or buying somebody gift cards when in reality that meant nothing. All they wanted to do was sit down and have a cup of tea with me or a glass of wine. That would have meant the world to them. I didn't have to spend $100 on a massage for them. So really get to know your staff in a better way. And this takes empathy into account in a huge way. When you really appreciate them in a way they feel most loved, you're going to find that they feel like they have a compassionate leader, a leader that genuinely respects and cares about them, and they're going to feel like a valuable part of the business. All right. So lastly here, I know it is so challenging when you're managing staff and you feel like there is, so much more to do every day. The business should be making more money. We're challenged here and over there. Look at success in small wins also. Take time to look down the mountain every now and then. I mean, all of you have probably come pretty darn far in your business, and it's so easy to constantly be striving for the peak, but that can be a really challenging work environment to be in for yourself as well as for the staff members. When they constantly feel like good is not enough or great is not enough or there's always more they can be doing, that can be pretty demotivating. So start to find those little benchmarks or little successes that you can celebrate. Find joy in things that are really exciting, that are small things that are really exciting. That may be just having a new client love a class that they didn't think that they could take before, or somebody refer somebody into the business where, yes, those are expectations of the business sometimes, but those are also amazing wins. So remind yourself to celebrate those little things and celebrate them with your staff. That's just going to create a culture and an environment that feels warm, inviting, and like something they want to walk into every day. So that's what I've got for you today, you guys. I, again, have Studio Solutions as my business. You can follow us on Instagram, studio.solutions, Facebook, Studio Biz Coach. I put my email there. And as I mentioned before in the training aspect, I've actually designed a front desk sales training and leadership and management guide. So if that's something that you're interested in, I've designed a video, workbook, and manual that goes along with it. You can find it on my website, and I created a code for you guys today to get $100 off of that staff training. I recommend putting that into your training that you do with every single person you hire to the team. You can have that as part of it. It's a 30-minute video, and then wrap up with the Mind Body Front Desk Staff certification. It takes a lot of work off of your plate, but it also starts to get everybody on the same page as far as sales are concerned and as far as customer service is concerned at your business. So I am happy to take questions from you guys. It looks like a couple of them are popping up right now. Jose, yes, I believe there's going to be a copy of this presentation shared. I'm happy to share the slides with you guys, though, if you'd like them. Oops, sorry, did that just go away? Okay, cool. So who's got questions about staff for me, or do we have any questions left for the call? Oh, I see one in the comments box. Can you say those 3 suggestions to use at the bottom of the job ad? Oh yeah, the 3 suggestions I use at the bottom of a job description are, tell me 3 words that your friends would use to describe you. So just kind of a fun thing. You get to see how self-aware people are. You can ask what led them, or what their yoga story was, or their wellness story, or why they're passionate about fitness. Something like that that connects them into what you're doing and making sure that they actually care. And then the third one is, what would you like your schedule to be every week? So you make sure it's not somebody that's like only wants to work weekends and you need weekday nights. Something I also forgot to mention here with interviewing is always mandate that anybody that you're interviewing has to come take a class or a service at your business before you interview them. If you have a business that only has very expensive offerings, I know this can be a challenge. So maybe it's just saying, come in and see the space and chat with our front desk before the interview. But I highly recommend having them experience your services beforehand. So that way in the interview, first of all, it's an accountability thing. It's another way to weed out unaccountable candidates. If they don't come in, if they don't take the class or don't take the service, you know that they're probably not that serious. And then also you can ask questions about it in the interview. If you have somebody that came in, you can say, so tell me how you would innovate the experience overall from front desk to the programming. Let me know what you think would help our business grow. Okay, so the second question again was, tell me your wellness story, or why are you passionate about fitness? Something that connects them to what you're doing. Okay, any thoughts on team members that are not employees? Yes, it can be a big challenge if you have independent contractors or booth rentals. My suggestion here is that you don't make them mandatory, because unfortunately you can't. It depends on what state you're in. Every state has different employment laws, but I'm here in California and we can't mandate team meetings for independent contractors. So what I do then is I make it a fun thing. If you can't do it in the studio and make it a serious team meeting, make it potluck at your house, or something that's a little less formal, and make it fun so that people want to show up. But do it regularly. Like last Saturday of the month is potluck at my house, or meet at a park, or go roller skating. Who knows? Something that's going to get people together, but make sure you've got time to sit and really dig into what's going on at the business. Okay, there are questions in both Q&A and comments. Let me see what I can get to. Do you suggest for a manager that's had flexibility to make their own schedule but is taking advantage of this and not spending enough time at work? I definitely know that this can be a challenge at businesses, because oftentimes, like I said in the beginning, people are like ships in the night. You don't always see what they're doing, and people don't feel like they necessarily need to be present. My most clear, concise answer to this question, I think there are a lot of things you can do. Maybe it's not the right person, but it's come back to the mission. Like, is that person being at the studio more of a value add and more of a commitment to the studio mission, or is that person being at home helping move closer towards that mission? And I would always come back to the root of it. And, if it's not serving the clients and enhancing the experience to have them at home, then I would say, sorry, like our goal here is to be serving the clients and getting them comfortable and making sure that they are retained with us for as long as possible so they can feel successful. So I would bring it back to that. I have definitely had people, Megan, that are not pulling their weight, and I would absolutely say that cut ties sooner rather than later. One thing I didn't mention in my presentation, but that I would highly recommend, is documenting as much as possible. So if you find that someone doesn't show up for work till 10 minutes late one day, it may seem like no big deal, but just make a note of it. If you don't keep employee files, I highly recommend doing it. You can keep them in a locked file cabinet. You can keep them on a computer in a password protected spot, but have something that you make sure you monitor people's actions, because you may find that you end up making excuses for employees when really they are taking advantage of you. And if you document it and you notice that you're like 5 notes into this person just taking advantage of you or not pulling their weight, it's time to cut ties. Suggestions on how to have them pick it up and step it up. Well, part of it may be finding out what motivates that individual. I often find that part of the reason people aren't pulling their weight or aren't doing the work that you're asking them to do is that they're tremendously demotivated in your business. So a lot of times it's not them. It's like the breakup line. It's not you, it's me. It totally can be that you're either not managing them in a way that's really helping them thrive, or not giving them opportunities to feel empowered to make decisions on their own, or to challenge them, or giving them educational opportunities. When you really start to give them exciting opportunities in the workplace, then typically people start being more motivated. But ask them. If you've never asked the question, what motivates you, or what do you love about your job and what gets you excited to walk in the door, talk to them about it. I often find that we make a bigger deal than we need to out of a lot of the situations that happen at work. And I know obviously this person works for you now, but for employees coming in, set expectations from day one so that there's always clarity. There's no, I'm not sure what I was supposed to do, or I thought I was doing it right. When you're clear about expectations and you're consistent about holding people accountable, you avoid so much of the drama that ends up happening down the road. Handling raises, Andrew, and reviews, really great question. Part of depends on where you are and what type of business you're in. I know in fitness studios, I work quite a bit with class-based businesses and class-based fitness studios and appointment-based fitness studios, yoga, bar, wellness. There is an awesome product called FitGrid. They're a MindBody tech partner. I recommend them like crazy. They basically give amazing detailed reporting and reviews on teachers' performance, and they give you great metrics to lean on so that when you do reviews with your staff members, you can have a lot more data. And FitGrid, FITGRID. And feel free to reach out to me. I can give you guys a connection to that business if you don't know how to find them. They give enough data so that it's really clear and easy to say what a staff member needs to do better in order to get a raise. Thank you. And then the next thing I would say, if you want to DIY it and you're really good with MindBody reports, you can use the retention report in MindBody to look at teachers who are retaining people to their classes. You can look at performance by staff performance report. That's what it's called. And that gives you a lot of information on what they're selling. So I love to come to the table with as much information, hardcore data as possible, and then offer them opportunities to grow. Ask them what they're interested in learning, and then give them opportunities for that. You may find that they feel totally stuck because they haven't been able to afford a new training in a while. It's like, okay, great. We'll give you a super discount off the next training we're doing at the studio, or maybe give it to them for free. So you can continually enhance their education. Jenna, SS Love does $100 off our front desk staff training. It is really, it's on Studio Solutions website. It's really designed for class-based businesses that are in the fitness, and so bar, yoga, fitness, not necessarily spa and salon, but I've done lots of in-person trainings for spa, salon, appointment-based clients. Finding people for hiring, stylists for hiring. Honestly, I am not an expert on where to find stylists. I wish I could say I was. I know there are some great job hunting websites out there. Indeed is a good default one, but there's another one called WorkPop that does a pretty good job. And I actually bet stylists would be easy to find on there. But truly, some of my best employees were referrals, people from within the network, people that were clients. I know some people are scared to hire clients or people that were in the studio. I definitely spend a lot more time interviewing that person to make sure they're a good fit so you don't burn a bridge. Yes, WorkPop is exactly right. But all right, for a new studio just opening, should the studio cover cost required certifications and training? Totally depends. I've worked with people who have business models where that's a revenue stream for them. All of the trainings and all of the certifications are like for programming, like teachers need. They have to pay for on their own, and that's a revenue stream. But they typically pay a little bit higher, so it's something that people are really wanting, and it's an attractive career. As far as training and certifications for, specific tasks at the studio, is that what I'm not sure what you're referring to. That I would absolutely cover. But hopefully that helps. I know there are some businesses out there that pay for, like there are franchises that pay for training for the individuals, but that's really based on not wanting the individual to own the intellectual property. And for non-competes. But personally, I say, why not have another revenue stream if you can? Okay. Oh, thanks, Jennifer. Schools placed job ads for veteran students for hair and skin services. Awesome. How do you schedule classes when you start a studio not knowing the demand yet? Not a fun answer, but it's a lot of trial and error. You can look at some of the schedules from studios around you, and honestly, don't copy exactly what they're doing. Go 15 minutes off, a half hour off. And then also when you're doing this, I would say just be comfortable being nimble. You may have 5 weeks in a row that only 2 or 3 people show up. You got to change that time slot. You're not going to make money on that class. But typically I say give things a quarter, and do free classes at time slots that aren't performing, do discounted classes so you can start getting people used to teachers. It can be a really big challenge, but don't be scared to change the schedule and constantly ask members what they want. Brand new studio, I would say do some sort of a Facebook ad drip campaign where you offer a free week or some sort of a discounted package to somebody who will answer polled questions about schedules or something of that nature. All right. I think, yeah, Studio SS Love is on Studio Solutions website. Thanks. All right, cool. I think that's
so much, Laura.
Yeah.
That was amazing and so informational and motivating. And thank you for everyone who attended today's webinar. I hope that you were all able to jot down a few takeaways that you can start applying right now to your business and your staff. So I know that there's a lot more to learn too, just about staff management and leadership. So I highly encourage you to check out the community in MindBody One, the certifications that are available with MindBody, and definitely the resources that Laura has shared with you right here on the screen from Studio Solutions. If you're looking for more details, you can also visit us at the Resource Center at mindbodyonline.com. And we're actually doing a webinar next week with FitGrid and one of our other partners,
cool.
Trainerize. So that's perfect. I'll send you out a link for registration for that as well. So keep your eyes open for our follow-up email where you'll get the recording. Other than that, I thank you, everyone, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, Laura.
All right. Thanks so much, guys.